Hello, hello. Welcome. Happy to see you. Well, you see me actually. Happy to be here. Once again, here I am. Village Fountain Conversations with Bansi. And yeah, so I mentioned in the topic for today, exploring this distinction between having authentic elders in our community, in our world, in our society, and having people in older bodies. And it's potentially a tricky subject because we kind of all somehow know, of course, we should somehow respect our elders, respect our parents, our grandparents, and so on. And that might be true, actually, regardless of the case. I'm really speaking to this tragedy of soullessness that we kind of cultivate in our culture. You know, we live these kind of simple, protective lives, most of us, and we've created this amount of safety. We no longer have to be worried about being attacked by bears and lions at night. You know, we have big houses that protect us and big cities that keep animals out most of the time. And one of the consequences of all that safety and all that development is we never test ourselves. We never leave the safety of our home, go on the Hobbit's hero's journey. You know, we leave the safety of the Shire and go on the big adventure to follow the soul's calling, to leave home. And I really think that that's a big part of why we don't actually find our own inner strength and our own authenticity and our own soul's calling, is we're too protected as a culture. And something about being connected to the earth and being connected to nature, being connected to ourselves in this great adventure that takes us into the unknown, cultivates something really rich and brings out this essence of who we are, our soul's gift. Our soul's gift doesn't come without that struggle and that effort, in my experience. Anyway, if anyone wants to post comments or questions, I know there's a couple people watching at least, feel free to do that. Okay, so what would it be like to live in a society where we have a bunch of elders? You know, like we truly have, you know, mature adults and mature elders, and not just a bunch of stunted adolescents in older bodies. It's kind of what we have now. It's kind of what we see in some of our political leaders, for instance, in this country in particular. You know, but we also see it all around us in the supermarket and at the mechanic shop and everywhere we go. It's like, are we really present? Are we really mature? Have we actually matured into something really, into an adulthood? Like we don't have ceremonies for, you know, truly going into adulthood. We don't know how to hold it. We don't have mature adults and matured elders to even guide the way. That's how lost we are. Some cultures, you know, I think of the indigenous of Australia, right? They have a walkabout, and it's like, yeah, it's understood. You leave home and you go into the wilderness on your own, and you find out what you're made of, and you come back, and when you come back, you're celebrated, and people want to hear, what have you learned, and what are you bringing us? In this culture, it's like, no, don't go, I can't live without you. You're not even allowed to leave for your adventure. And if you make it out, it's like, why have you abandoned us? Don't you care? It's just a guilt trip. It's codependency. It's sickening. You know, how do we honor our adventures, our journeys? And, you know, there's agency and communion. There's intimacy and there's connection, communion. You know, we need these traits, but, you know, that goes into some other territory. I mentioned Bill Plotkin. I think he's written 3 monumental landmark books. The second one, Nature and the Human Soul, he talks about his ecocentric 8 stages of egocentric, soul-centric human development. And he proposes we're stuck in this stage 3, late adolescence, and I get a lot from that. I understand it. The more you contemplate it, it's like, yeah, we don't get past that. The majority of our culture. I notice myself also slowing down. I just want to feel present and connected. You know, it's I have a lot of passion for some of these subjects, and at the same time, I never want to lose sight and lose connection with myself and with others, with you, with the world, with the nature. It's not worth getting somewhere if we can't kind of enjoy the ride, enjoy the process, but also, you know, what does that mean? Staying in connection with self and other and nature. That's part of what we've lost. We think the ideas are the only thing that matters. What about the being? What about our presence? What about our whole system? And so some people go to the other extreme and they're like, well, don't use words at all. Just be silent all the time, or just have silent practices. And of course that can have its benefit. For me, a truly holistic, kind of an advanced way of being, an advanced practice, is to really include it all, including the mind, but also not having the mind in the driver's seat, you know, like the mind is on the bus, but he's not the driver. The mind is a consultant, an advisor, but it's actually not the chief decision maker. And that chief decision maker gets to listen to all the different intelligences, our instinct, our intuition, our emotions, our body sensations, spirit, imaginal realms. Our gut is just as informative as the head, maybe more so. It's been around a lot longer. So how do we come to integral decisions where we really listen to our whole system, all 7 chakras, whatever lens you want to look at through, to understand our different layers of our being? Can silence be not the pause in the conversation, but actually the feeling of the connection? Fully present. We're so used to just watching talking heads, receiving words, receiving information. Can you receive presence? Can we be present together? There's more than enough knowledge out there, but not enough beingness, present aliveness. Conscious connection. As I've said before in other videos, I still find this medium very awkward because my being, my desire, my experience, and my interest and my teachings are all about live connection. And so a lot of you might watch this after it's recorded, and I don't, even if you're watching live, I don't really get to see you and your micro expressions, your responses and impact, and hear your voice and so on. I much prefer an interactive format, but I really wanted to try this as a way of seeing what was possible. I feel a little bit like a fish out of water. It's like, oh, this is not my comfort zone. Or maybe not even the best way to share or spread or experience what I'm wanting. So we'll see if I continue, or I might switch to inviting to a Zoom conference where we can be present and actually interact with each other more. Which would be private, not Facebook Live. If I do that, I'll post it on the Field of Awakening page. So I'm also just now asking myself if I've covered what I wanted to cover, or around this question of maturity and elders. For many years I was doing home health care services, and I cared for many elders who were, many older people who were on the verge of passing on. And there were different experiences with many of these different people, you know. Almost all of them have a story to tell, and that is true in my experience. But not all of them truly became mature human beings. Well, maybe few to none, to be honest. And what does that look like when someone is passing and they're a mature being? How is that reflected in the stories they share? For me, there's a taste of their gift, of their giving to humanity, and their love of humanity, and you get a taste of what it is to be in this human experience. It is challenging to put into words. But like some, I would hear war stories, and oh, they're fascinating stories, from a historical perspective. But if I don't hear what was actually learned, what was gotten out of it, is it just reminiscence? Is it just regret? Is it, or did it lead to some profound understanding of the world and one's place in it? When I think of other teachers of mine, true elders in my opinion, who have passed, who have relived, for me, they leave an impact. It's oh, they're gone now. They were offering something, and if I'm connected to them, I often feel some level of, what do I carry of that? Alright, well, I'm feeling a loss of steam on the subject. I thank you for tuning in. If you're watching this far, I really appreciate you, and feel free to message me or comment, share your impressions. Stay connected on the Field of Awakening. Maybe we can connect up on Zoom and chat and share and be present. And ultimately, my dream is to build conscious community, evolutionary community, around a lot of these principles and understandings, particularly the container of the Field of Awakening. Because I've seen in a small micro version what's possible, and I want, it's so rich, I want that to be bigger and bigger, more and more of our experience. Okay, so for now, I'll just say thank you and I'll sign off. Hope you have a beautiful day.